Don't touch that dial. You're tuned in to the Dread Podcast Network.
Welcome to Development Hell. For every horror movie that hits V.O.D, countless others end up D.O.A. Development Hell is the podcast dedicated to unearthing these cursed horror productions. We're going to find out what went wrong, and then decide if these titles still stand a shot at the green light. I am your host, Josh Corngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central. I am also a filmmaker in Toronto, Canada. This podcast is a proud member of the Dread Podcast Network. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Development Hell. We are officially, more than halfway through our limited audio series, Dark Universe. So this is when we are talking about the infamously canned series of reboot movies that Universal were, using to turn their classic ecosystem of monsters into an MCU-style new franchise. So on our third episode today, I think we're going to give once again a brief rundown on what the Dark Universe is in case you haven't checked in these past few weeks. But more importantly, we are going to hone in on Frankenstein's monster. It's a little bit less of a traditional episode compared to the last two because we're going to be talking about Frankenstein sort of more as an entity because there was more than one Dark Universe Frankenstein film that was sort of in discussion. There are still Frankenstein films on the way, so this is going to be a little bit more of a monster mash. Joining us again is the Monsters That Made Us podcast. We've got Dan Colón and Mike Manzi, aka the Invisible Dan and Monster Mike. So these are the people that bring us the Monsters That Made Us podcast, everyone's favorite classic monsters pod, and we have them back for this entire series. So before we begin, why don't we just reintroduce them in case people haven't been listening? Dan, can you maybe reintroduce yourself to Development Hell?
Yes. Hi, Josh. Hello, Development Hell listeners. I am the Invisible Dan Colón. I am co-host of The Monsters That Made Us. And I'll throw it over to Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, that was super quick.
Efficient.
Monster Mike Manzi, co-host of Monsters That Made Us, co-founder of Cage Club Podcast Network. 10 years next year.
Holy shit.
Happy birthday.
Just talking before off, Mike, about when do podcasts end? Apparently 10 years, they continue. I don't like to hear that. That means I have 4 years plus. Anyway, we are talking about Frankenstein's monster today. And like always, I want to start back at May 2017 with this publicity photo released by Universal Pictures to generate some excitement about Dark Universe. I'm going to throw to one of you. I know I've done this before, but Dan, can you just remind us, what are we seeing in this, beautiful photograph?
So, this photo, love this photo.
Definitely my desktop background.
No way.
Absolutely.
Yes, it absolutely is Mike's desktop background. So I feel like I am the least qualified person in this conversation. But, okay, so we've got 5 actors, right? We've got Russell Crowe, we've got Javier Bardem, Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, and Sofia Boutella in some nondescript attic somewhere.
Yeah.
All sort of, glaring at the camera, all looking different kinds of serious or menacing or sexy, depending on your interpretation. They're all wearing black, we've discussed, which is pretty cool. And I remember pointing out that Tom Cruise is the only one not wearing formal wear. He's in a t-shirt and jeans, which I think is an interesting choice.
I think it's like giving Coach, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's sort of like the guy at the front of this thing.
Yeah.
Everybody into the breach.
Wait, so who's giving sexy?
I mean, depends on who you talk to. I'm
That's
thinking
true.
Sophia Boutella looks.
That's the only one I can think of too. Yeah,
Maybe Bardem. Maybe Bardem. He's got a look going on. I think.
He looks
I don't
like
know.
stomach ache a little bit.
He's got like that knowing look in his eye,
Like he knows how you're gonna die.
yeah. And
I feel like he'd have been a great Dracula. Now, the more I think of it,
yep.
because who did we? Raul Julia, we found out played him on stage, and
Mhm.
I just wish that a video of that surfaces someday because that to me sounds like amazing.
Wait, is that Gomez?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. That's the greatest loss, I think, maybe in all of popular culture. Was him.
Yeah, he was Dracula on Broadway in the Edward Gorey production in the 70s.
Shut up when he did the production design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I went to theater school. Yeah, I love this photo. We're going to talk about it every week. It always surprises me that we don't have Dracula here because we literally have everybody else. I guess they were maybe trying to think about what to do with Dracula Untold, do you think, still at this time?
Possibly. This was taken before assembled, right, in Photoshop
Yeah.
before the first movie was released,
Yeah.
correct? So like they were probably waiting to see how the Mummy was received or just feeling it out a bit. This just seemed like what they were definitely up to.
Right. I definitely wonder where Angelina Jolie is in this photo, but it could be that they had assembled the photos or taken these photos in that interim period, when Dracula Untold might have been part of this universe and before Angelina Jolie was part of the conversation, and these were the photos they had. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing to note, that there's no Dracula and there's no Bride of Frankenstein.
And if you think that this can't get messier, it can get messier. To reintroduce people that weren't listening the last couple of weeks, Dark Universe, this sort of reboot of all of these films in the style of the Avengers. And it all came tumbling down after the first film, The Mummy, was launched, and it was not a success commercially or otherwise. But Dark Universe still exists. It is going to be a section of the upcoming amusement park, Universal Epic Universe amusement park. So you can't kill Dark Universe. Wow, we're talking about Frankenstein today. I'm kind of very excited. There's so much to get through, and I'm glad you guys are here because you are the authority. Frankenstein, the original film, based on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel, Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. And I believe also the stage version by Peggy Webling. The first film, it's just like this massive landmark in, classic horror, and really set off a lot of what we now have today. We have so many sequels and extensions and like meetups and other things in this film series. My God, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6? Does that sound like proper 6? Or do we also include Abbott and Costello?
For sure.
I mean, I definitely would.
Film? You definitely would. Okay, so what's our number here? Well, like how many?
So here, yeah. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this.
8.
I saw the films you were gonna mention, and if we want to discount the crossovers where there are multiple monsters, right? Because then at that point, whose movie is it? Because House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, those have multiple.
I never discount Freddy versus Jason. I never do it.
Right.
And I would argue Frankenstein is a crucial, but at least his journal plays a crucial role as a MacGuffin.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is more a Frankenstein movie with the Wolfman in it. So let's say that there are 5. There are still like a zillion Mummy movies. Like I feel like when we did our first season of our show, we just kept the Mummy sequels just kept going.
So funny because so did the reboot movies in a way.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and the
it's like
Mummy
the
never.
Terminator. He's like literally, we were like, he's just a Terminator back then, like a zombie Terminator. You can't stop him. You shoot him, he just keeps coming at you.
People
Yeah.
love
That's why it's
the
so many
Mummy.
movies.
He never crossed over. There were no no monster rallies with the Mummy, except
Weird.
there was an Abbott and Costello movie, so we
Uh,
do get one of those. But it was just like, if I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it felt like there were like 8 mummies, and then so yeah, Frankenstein's monster shows up a ton, but really I would say that there are like 4 or 5, depending on how you look at Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
it's so funny how our franchises today kind of take similar turns. Well, you'll have 4 or 5 in canon, and then Rob Zombie will get involved, and then Blum will get involved. And by the end, you think there's 8 movies, but you're just not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I also prefer the franchise that branches out of just using a numbering
oh,
system
you want a
to
legacy
keep going.
title?
Like this has the bride, the son, the ghost, like etc.
Yeah.
The house of,
I
it'd
agree
be
with
so
you.
much, nowadays
Also,
it
there's
would just be
something
Frankenstein
ballsy.
2, 3, 4.
I think there's something ballsy about giving something a number past 3 in a title. It's like, you know
Well,
what this is, Jaws 4, The
yeah,
Revenge.
if 3 isn't 3D, why bother?
Why are you doing that? Yeah. For Scream 3, which can do no wrong, in my opinion.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Yeah.
No, no bad Scream movies.
It's so true. Uh, and there's only one bad Scream TV show, and it's not the main one, because that was good. There was like the weird MTV spinoff with Keke Palmer. Not good. Anyway, 2 Frankenstein movies that I can speak to briefly, personally, are the first 2. So we got the original film in 1931, Frankenstein, by director James Whale. It follows Dr. Henry Frankenstein, played by Colin Clive, as he decides he's going to be God and make some unholy creation come to life. That creation is portrayed by Boris Karloff, and he has now become, this very important symbol of horror, more so than, the source material that he's based on. It's that man's face, in my opinion. So that movie was good. That movie was like fine, I guess. But the real shit, in my opinion, comes 4 years later with The Bride of Frankenstein. Also a James Whale joint. This expands on that universe by following Henry as he's drawn back into creating life, but this time it's to create a mate under the pressure of his gay mentor, Dr. Pretorius. Am I saying that right? I never know. And the straight monster itself. The film, gets a little bit deeper into some themes like loneliness and companionship, and it's just a banger. I do want to know some of your feedback on these films, but I'm also fucking just dying to hear about Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, mostly those 2. But okay, before we move on, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, where do these 2 movies land in your like ranking and your spectrum of love for this entire universe? Dan, hello.
So Frankenstein, the original 1931 Frankenstein, was my number 1 for a really long time.
Okay.
I mean, in my limited knowledge, I didn't really see a lot of the sequels until around the time I started doing this show. So full disclosure there, I had only seen a handful, but I loved Frankenstein. And then I saw Bride of Frankenstein, and I was really on first viewing. Let me just preface this by saying it was like first viewing. I was really kind of put off by it because it really didn't bring the stuff that I wanted from Frankenstein. I loved that first movie, and Bride is so different. And then over time, I have come to really love Bride more. If you would like to know where it lists in my ranking, it's number 4 in my overall ranking out of 32 movies.
Something
So
between.
yeah, something happened. I really gained an appreciation for James Whale as a filmmaker. I learned more about him. I started to study the subtext of the film. The themes are incredible. Just how much he was getting past the censorship board at the time is also incredible.
Yes, smart.
The only reason why Bride is not higher in my ranking over Frankenstein is because I really struggle with the little Dr. Pretorius's little people.
The
Um,
experiments.
yeah, those little tiny people he makes.
The people in a jar, right?
Forgot
Yeah,
about them.
because for me, that takes this story, which is so rooted in science, into a fantasy realm. And it feels outside of the universe that I and like all the stuff that I like. So I realize that might rub people a certain way.
Mm.
But I do want to say that I do love this movie. It is 4 out of 32. Frankenstein being my number one all time. Um, so it was gonna be a really difficult challenge to dethrone Frankenstein for me. But yeah, this movie is so insane in hindsight. When I learned more about it doing the show, like I gained a deeper appreciation for it. So like I 100% see why so many people love Bride of Frankenstein. It is a masterpiece. There's just this one element that I have trouble with.
Yes.
Talk to me about Frankenstein.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. James Whale is just proved to be not just like a master horror filmmaker, but a master filmmaker, in my opinion.
Yep.
We were very lucky to have him do what he did early on. And I think, he kind of established what was inevitable so early, which was sort of this like the outsider perspective that was taken on the monsters and all that. And, there's definitely like what we would probably refer to now as like queer cinema. But
Mhm.
back then, and he was from what I understand, people were aware of his sexuality. So he had sort of this freedom that many did not because of his stature and his talent, I think. And he got away with so much in these two movies. Like the first one seems to play a lot straighter, and it's like I feel like it's a commentary on like religion and
Yeah.
and how that's like a form of bondage even, and also how there's like repressed sexuality, of course, and that. And I think I spoke about how like it's just interesting how it's about a man and a man making another man up in a, away, locked away somewhere, and like supposed to get married and has no interest in that whatsoever. He just wants to play with men. And I think that's great. I mean, you could read into this 1,000 different ways, but then the sequel, I love to think of this as one long epic movie,
Yeah,
almost like a
me too.
two-parter, like a Kill Bill situation. And I think James Wales did something incredible where he like added that comedic element to everything, right? Like I don't know if it was him, but like there is this balance of horror and comedy that we I think take for granted sometimes nowadays in the modern age, that like, he'll scare you and then he'll make you laugh. And so like you're up and down like that roller coaster sensation. I mean he tuned that really well with that movie, and then in The Invisible Man as well. I
Mhm.
feel like it's the same sort of formula as far as like balancing that horror and that comedy and really getting your emotions like kind of running back and forth like that. So, I think Dan, I'm sorry, I love that scene where Dr. Pretorius is explaining, the little people and the jars and all that creating life. And I don't know. I go with it. I like it. But for me, what is incredible about all of it is that scene with the old man. The blind old
Yes.
man, like
Yep.
that alone is just legendary status. Like
That's
I
it's over.
cry just thinking about it.
Oh no, that's like about halfway through.
I was halfway through. It's Frankenstein. It's like very Halloween 5, where like Michael Myers finds like a vagrant and like lives with him for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Cool.
I had something to say and then I lost it. It's all right.
Do you like Halloween 5?
I'm trying to remember Halloween 5.
People don't
Maybe
like
Halloween 6.
Is that with Paul Rudd?
well,
Uh,
6 is Paul Rudd. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I love them all. Yeah, there's so much to talk about with Frankenstein. Like, obviously, we could talk about both of these movies for like 10 seasons each. But out of curiosity, I'm interested in your perspectives, specifically in Bride of Frankenstein. Like, what do you see as being the queer like subtext here? Because I definitely have my like opinion, and in my opinion, it's kind of like it's there, but it's kind of like a little vague. So I'm very curious what your reads on it are, and whoever wants to talk to this.
Um, Dan, do you want me to go? I have like, okay, so like
Yeah.
I have to admit, first time I watched it, probably went over my head because I was a teenager in the 90s and it just wasn't in my consciousness at the time, It's
Mm.
like, I know, I just wasn't, it
Yeah.
wasn't around, right? But then I saw Gods and Monsters,
Mm.
a film we might be talking about a little bit later. And there's a scene where the actor playing Pretorius goes to James Whale. He's like, look at us, like a bunch of queens, like just doing our thing, like we're getting away with it. I don't know how you did it, James, or something to that effect, right? And so I never watched the movie the same way. I was like, oh, that character is gay, and that's
He's not
totally.
trying. Like, that is the gayest character in cinema.
And it may be, coded for the age that it's not necessarily like the most
Mhm.
polite portrayal. Okay, I'll give it, he's the villain. That's going to go on to be problematic throughout Hollywood's history, but it's there, and it's more tongue in cheek, I think. And yeah, I think it's great to be there.
I love that.
Yeah, in terms of the story, I don't feel qualified to speak on, those sort of themes. But I definitely keyed in on Pretorius. Like over the years, since I saw it for the first time, I've keyed in on Pretorius being this very obviously gay character, and so like I think it's great that Whale took that chance. I mean, he takes a shit ton of risks making this movie, from like, on the edge of blasphemy at certain points.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit like unqualified to discuss
Okay.
just because, as a straight man, I I can't pick out those themes, right? Like it's not something that I'm totally in tune
Mhm.
with at 100%. But I do acknowledge, Whale's influence on the story, and I love that he felt compelled to put a character like that in this movie in the early 30s, when that would have been really taboo.
So tell me what you think of this. This is like something I just invented in my mind when I first saw Bride of Frankenstein, but it read to me a little bit like Pretorius is like someone that's comfortable in their queerness, sort of mentoring someone who's not, and who might, not necessarily be like gay, but on the queer spectrum. And like these sort of, I don't know, these experiments or sessions or whatever you want to call them are sort of him trying to reckon with it, but I don't think he ever successfully really does. And that's just been my read.
There could be somewhat of like a grooming element to the relationship,
Interesting.
right? I mean, being
Yeah.
a professor who's taking extreme liberties with that relationship, visiting his house and so forth, like really crossing boundaries at points.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you see maybe Henry and Pretorius as being two sides of James Whale? Sort of like
Oh, maybe.
um two sides of his. I mean, I know he was obviously an openly gay man at the time, so there was no question about his sexuality when he made the film. But I feel like there's this side of him that felt compelled to maybe play it straighter at times, and then there was the other side of him that totally went for it. Like
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I could
Good
see
question.
James Whale possibly using both characters as being versions of himself.
And even if he was fully aware of his own sexuality, like there's no way in hell he didn't have some sense of self-loathing back then. It would be impossible.
Right.
So you can see that maybe too with Henry or the monster. There's just so much here. It's so good. It is, you're right, my queer cinema. And I don't know, I guess it's not even that well known now unless you're like nerd, because it was kind of new to me when I encountered Bride of Frankenstein for the first time. I'd heard about it, I'd heard of Gods and Monsters, but I don't know if it's beyond the realm of like, people that listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm always interested in hearing new perspectives on this
Mm.
because, I'm a straight man. I only know what I know from my own life experience. But I think I remember saying in the first episode of this series, like when we did Bride of Frankenstein, I'm like, we're a couple of straight dudes. We're gonna do it as best we can, but we're not necessarily the right
You're
people to
coming
be
at it from the
talking about
monster's perspective, and I think that's
Right.
beautiful.
Man, I just like that's a whole nother reason why we did the show too, is just to sort of shed light on these movies in
Yeah.
general, just to let like
It
us
needs to
to
happen.
rewatch them, and then more awareness, because I realize that there's something happens like every 20 years where like the new generation rises and sort of forgets about like the last something that happened 40, 50, 60 years ago. So and there's exceptions to the rule, but in general, the general public, a lot of it has probably forgotten about Bride of Frankenstein one way or the other.
I think what I love most about Bride of Frankenstein is that it was like right on the cusp of the Hays Code. So it was like James Whale's like final middle finger, like, okay, the Hays Code's coming. I'm gonna throw everything into this movie that I won't be able to get away with in 5 years, you know? So yeah, I think just the balls on him to make this movie in 1935 is commendable. And I'm so glad that he was able to get so much of this stuff into the finished film.
Where is the Ryan Murphy Netflix series? I'm not saying it's going to be good, but like, where is it?
The man must be stopped, John.
I love it. I'm in the cult. I won't be watching Monsters. Okay, wait. I have one more thing to say to what you said, Mike, about how, yeah, the culture generally has forgotten these movies, but the cycle of tropes don't stop, and they don't realize that. And I have something I've always wanted to talk or write more about is the parallels between Freddy and Jason and Dracula and Frankenstein. Like, we're talking about very similar archetypes for both, just like updated for new audiences that can handle more, in my opinion. But anyways,
no, I like that. Just to speak quickly, if I may.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Freddy Dracula thing is really interesting,
in my opinion.
You know, like this guy who pries on men, but also mostly, it seems to be mostly women in their sleep ish. Like he, invades their subconscious and like lures them into the traps and stuff. And yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, the more obvious one, of course, would be Jason in Frankenstein's monsters role. But I think there are arguments to be made about Freddy. Fucking dying to know about. I'm just obsessed with shitty sequels. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I just want to know about, not in this case, but direct-to-video sequels. And so I have to ask about Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein.
Yeah, I think so. Right then. I mean, I don't know.
Can I assign run
in it? But
it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, Son of Frankenstein. I think you'll find if you speak to fans of the old Universal monster films, Son of Frankenstein is held just about in as high regard as the original and Bride of Frankenstein. That's a good, like, we talk about how Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein feel like a Kill Bill Part 1, Part 2. I think you could even say Son of Frankenstein is a solid Part 3. And if you were to watch all three together, that's a really amazing trilogy because Son stylistically stays pretty consistent with everything that's preceded it. It loses some of the subtext, right? Because now we're in 1939 and they can't get away with as much. So now it's more straightforward Frankenstein rebuilding this man kind of stuff. But now you get the introduction of Igor. And, for those of us who love Dracula, this is like, Bela Lugosi's other amazing, iconic Universal monster role. So the introduction of Igor is really cool. I love that his addition to the Frankenstein mythology. We think of what we think of as Igor as a people is more in line with Fritz in the original Frankenstein movie. Not Igor, but Igor is the name that we kind of hang on to. And I think Young Frankenstein, for those of us who've loved Young Frankenstein, that I think draws more from Son of Frankenstein than any of the others in terms of the narrative. But that movie by itself is drawing from, I think, like at least the first four of these movies. There's all like little stuff from all of them crammed into that little movie. So, but Son is kind of the template, I think.
Wow, I did not know that it was this important. Now I'm really need to watch it.
Young Frankenstein or Son of Frankenstein?
Oh, I've seen Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
No, Son of Frankenstein.
It's also the last time Karloff played the monster, so like that's significant. Basil Rathbone does an incredible job as Wolf von Frankenstein. Yeah, I would say like again, you're gonna be wanting for the subtext and the themes, and they're not gonna be there. It's gonna be more like Frankenstein. It's kind of the way like I think of like Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3, right? Alien and Alien 3 kind of are similar in their approach, whereas Aliens is like we're gonna do something wildly different. But they're all good in their own way.
Wait, does that mean Ghost of Frankenstein is Alien Resurrection?
Kind of.
Yes, in that it goes in a very wild direction. I will let Mike speak to that.
Okay, that's exciting. My only question for you is Son of Frankenstein, like, is he an adult? Like, what's the deal with Son of Frankenstein?
Oh yeah, he's Henry's son, and he's grown up. He's got a wife and a child, and he decides to recreate his father's work.
Cool. I love it. And is his father alive?
No,
Does he die?
I don't think so. Memory serves,
yeah.
he's dead.
Okay,
I think
cool.
he's pretty dead.
Love that. That's food for thought. I do want to hear about Ghost of Frankenstein, though, which you have been saddled with, Mike.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think there's as much to go into, but I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah.
There is an actual ghost that shows up. I remember being very surprised at that it is a ghost of the first Frankenstein played by recast, a new actor.
Oh,
Uh,
not
but
Lon Jr. Oh no.
no, well, Lon Chaney Jr. is the monster
Yeah,
in
I
this
see.
one. So this is sort of around the time where he becomes like the golden boy. I think he's going to be Wolfman, the monster. They're going to throw him in like all kinds of different movies, and it's like whatever
It
he
worked.
needs to be.
Did
It's
everybody
gonna
hate
work.
him? I feel like I was listening to You Must Remember This, and I was learning about negative things about Lon Chaney Jr.
There
Does
seemed to
that
be
sound right?
a very sort of like 50-50 kind of, from what I understand, like some people had a great relationship with him, some people found him very difficult to work with. He was unfortunately a alcoholic, like a
Yeah.
pretty bad alcoholic.
Oh,
He was on the
oh,
heels of his father's epic fame, so there was like a lot to live up to there. His dad didn't even want him to be an actor, like wanted him to be a plumber, and somewhat in a way
okay.
disowned him, from all that. And so, not excusing him, just explaining him in a way.
But he was also really good with the kids on
Yes.
set, like that's the one thing we heard about or read about him that
Red
like
flag.
yeah, no, he
No,
was just
no, not in
really
that.
he was just really good with children on set. He had a kind heart, but he had his demons, that's for sure. And I think some of those came out to play, unfortunately, on set.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, some of that frustration comes out as his Frankenstein. So
Mhm.
he's not the worst Frankenstein, it's not necessarily the most memorable, but like I feel like it's serviceable. Like
No, I'm
you
wearing
know,
him on my shirt.
yeah, and he's a huge guy. Like he was a very big, towering, imposing man as well. He almost had like a wrestler's body.
Mm.
So he fit the role. I don't think they had to put lifts on him very much.
Dad Frank.
Um, we have Igor back, so that's great. Bela Lugosi's back. The plan is to put his brain in the monster's body so that he can be immortal and live forever. And
Oh,
uh,
Igor's got a
that's
plan.
yeah, we got a plan, and it's not that crazy. I like that we dive really headfirst into science fiction in this one, kind of stray from the horror more and more. Uh, what else? We got a really great cast. I love the Cedric Hardwicke as Ludwig
Mm.
Frankenstein. I think, is he the son of Frankenstein, Dan?
No, I think he's like
Grandson?
I
Is
think
he a
he's a nephew.
son? Oh, okay. He might be extended family.
If
Uh,
memory serves, it's been so long since we talked about Ghost. I can't remember specifically, but I want to say might be a nephew.
And then
Not a
Lionel
nephew.
Atwill, who's great and everything. So he's in
Yes.
this too as Dr. Ted, Dr. Theodore, sort of somewhat of a rival. So, not the most memorable, unfortunately, kind of the curse of the fourth in a lot of ways. It is Frankenstein the Revenge, somewhat, I suppose, but
Oh,
it's
he's
good.
the second. Sorry, he's the second son of Henry
Okay,
Frankenstein.
yeah, he's the second son. All right, right. I think
Or
there's a
just a
daughter
son.
in there as well somewhere.
Oh yeah, I always like a girl version. Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Now because we are already so late, I am going to just really skim through the different crossovers that
Mhm.
exist, and I'll probably miss some. And I'm so sorry because I know that you guys probably care about this more than I do. But here we go. There is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. We've got Frankenstein. House of Frankenstein. We've got House of Dracula, which I'm assuming Frankenstein is in. We got
Yep.
um we got okay, wait, we got Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Hold on. Am I done?
I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Oof, I got scared. Do you guys have like a favorite each?
I really like, what is it, the House of Dracula? Was that the one? Yeah, the House of Dracula has a female hunchback nurse in it who is just, I fell in love with that character for some reason and suffers a horrible, horrible death.
Wait, you had like a crush on the humpback girl?
Yeah, kind of. She's got like the old-timey nurse's uniform on with the Red Cross and everything, but like she's, and I thought that was a really clever kind of thing to do is be like, just because like you look quote
Weird.
unquote like a freak doesn't mean you are a freak. You're like in the
Or if
parlance
you
of the
are a
day.
freak, that's cool. I
That
like
as
that.
well. That
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, but a
Was he
very
like a hunchback?
I thought so.
Okay,
I
like they
think.
were like making her kind of babe.
Because she has like the 40s makeup and the curly hair and the
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah, they really
They weren't
it's
like
a
making
pimp.
like a crone, you know? They weren't.
Right.
I love that word.
Yeah, so Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is my all-time favorite horror comedy. I usually watch it every October. It
I
is
think
the
that's the one people
only
know.
it's the only comedy in my top 5 Universal monster movies.
So this counts as Universal.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a Universal movie, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Gotta be.
Yep.
Stupidest thing I've ever said. Okay. I gotta okay. And if you could now that you've talked to me for a number of hours now in your lives, which one would you recommend to me?
Well, you've seen Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. I would say you could watch Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein out of context and have a totally great time.
Okay, cool. Love that.
But I would say like the franchise, like at least Son and Ghost, kind of like Friday the 13th franchise. Like there's continuity. So like and into Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So, once Igor's brain is transplanted into the monster, the next movie is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, where Bela Lugosi, who was Igor, is now playing the Frankenstein monster. So like there's some wild continuity throughout the Frankenstein saga. So that's one of the things I like most about Friday the 13th is just like how Jason continues to change over time and keeps all the scars from the previous movies. So like, yeah, I love how Frankenstein also does that.
Yeah, Jason really didn't break canon until the remake. Like not really at all.
Yeah.
Bring back Roy. Bring back Roy.
I'm okay with Roy. I am nothing
too.
against Roy. That movie, though, it's Quentin Tarantino's favorite, number 5. And doesn't that kind of make sense?
Yes.
I suppose.
It does.
Okay. Now we are heading into Dark Universe territory. I think I mentioned before, this is not really the most traditional topic for the Dark Universe slate. There was, yes, going to be an official Bride of Frankenstein project with Bill Condon and Angelina Jolie sort of spearheading it. But that wasn't it. There was also going to be the sort of untitled Frankenstein's monster movie. And that's kind of what we're shaping this episode more so around. In 2015, oh no, I hate names, David Coep? How did that sound? You said it.
Is it Cope or Kep? I can't remember.
Coep, Kep, and I'll edit the right one in. You know I won't. So Bill Condon, what an interesting person to bring on because he is the director of 1998's Gods and Monsters, the sort of behind-the-scene tableau of Bride of Frankenstein, all about James Whale. So they bring him in. They think they're cute for that, even though this guy did direct the last 2 Twilight movies. They are bad. Or maybe just the last one. Okay. They also had Javier Bardem, not just Angelina Jolie, as we saw on that press photo. He is going to play the monster. He's going to play Frankenstein's monster. Yes, in Bride of Frankenstein, but also in this like part 2 sort of parts other project potentially. They were sort of going at 2 at once. Then, of course, we have the collapse of the Dark Universe into itself in 2017. And I think there was still some hope for this Bride of Frankenstein film. Bill Condon around that time expressed interest in maybe Gal Gadot taking over the role. I think he kind of felt like Jolie maybe leaving was in the wind. It didn't happen because of The Mummy. We've talked about that so many times. I almost feel bad, like, for The Mummy, really getting shat on. I'm like turning into you guys with The Mummy, where I'm like a Mummy apologist now. I don't know if I like.
Oh, I don't apologize.
No, you do, and you're right for doing it. And I,
I just think that there's some stuff that's in there that is legitimately fun and entertaining.
Yeah, I know, but at what cost? Yeah, I have it as a 2 in Letterboxd, and every time I look at it, I'm like, it's not nice. It's more than that. Um, yeah, The Mummy unfortunately didn't get people's attention, and all of a sudden this film and all the others that we're talking about got sort of lost. We have an interesting quote here from Bill Condon, who I'm not surprised seems like an emotional guy. And here's what he had to say sort of around that time. That was a heartbreaker, really. The simplest way to say it is that I think The Mummy, and not to say anything against that movie, but the fact that that hadn't worked for them, and it was the beginning of this whole reinvention of their monsters, gave them cold feet at the end of the day. Because David Coep was writing the script, I thought it was unbelievably good, and we were on the verge of making a really beautiful movie, I thought. So that was a shame. How'd you like my my performance?
That was good. That
I
was
felt
really
good.
sweet.
I don't know what he sounds like, but it was probably what I sounded.
It was like I was in the room with him.
I think your sarcasm or not, I actually think it's true. He's mad. He's fine. He's still making movies.
Yeah.
This whole project began to shift around this time too. So James Wan and Jason Blum also sort of popped up around 2019 when Wan was actually announced officially to be a producer for the Frankenstein franchise. I think it was very sort of unsaid that everyone involved previously would sort of dissipate, but I don't think it was 100% certain, because sometimes you do see things sort of break through. Anyway, I haven't heard much about this either, because in 2020 it sounded like they were even evolving this into something new, a teen-centric Frankenstein retelling, where they hired someone named Robbie Thompson to write the script. I'm sorry, I didn't look into him. So yeah, that was sort of the last time the evolution of this reboot or remake kind of came to a halt. I do find it fascinating, and I feel like you're not going to like this, that we have this teenage Frankenstein movie, and then all of a sudden by 2024, Universal is literally releasing Lisa Frankenstein, another teenage-centered take on this, legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I brought it up, I didn't get a warm response from you guys on that movie. I think we're gonna hear it.
No, I think we brought that up in the first episode, the Mummy episode, and all I said was that it's not really a Frankenstein movie. It is Frankenstein in name only, but I did really enjoy it.
Oh, see,
I haven't seen it yet.
It looks so bad.
I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was really a good time. But it's Frankenstein in name only. The story has nothing to do with Frankenstein. It's not about reanimating anybody.
Dead guy, right?
It's a zombie. It's sort of like what's that zombie?
Oh, is it like that Ryan Reynolds movie?
No, the one with like Nicholas Holt.
Oh, from the please.
Yeah, what's that called?
Zombies? No. She's blonde. I've met her. She's Australian. And then the bald guy that's funny and stuff.
Hang on.
I don't know, but I think
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
Who's the bald guy? Anyway.
A really good teen Frankenstein movie is Boltneck from 2000, starring Deadpool's Ryan Reynolds. Go Canada.
What?
It's some.
I did not know.
Gotta check it out.
I'm Canada. That's so funny.
Did you refer to Rob Corddry as the bald guy?
No, I also said the bald guy that's in things and he's funny.
Yeah, that's Rob Corddry.
Hello. Yeah, I never saw that because that looked very post Twilight. Not to say anything against Twilight. Oh my god, now I sound like Bill Condon.
No, Lisa Frankenstein leans more into like the how do I describe it? I mean, it's got a awesome 80s kind of soundtrack, and
me too.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Lisa Frankenstein. I just didn't view it as a Frankenstein movie. I think it's called Lisa Frankenstein because she's like into spooky shit, and she like hangs out in cemeteries and she makes like these etchings, like these rubbings with the tombstone names, and like that's how like the title came from. She like etched or got the charcoal rubbing of like Frankenstein and whatever on a piece of paper. I don't know. It has nothing to do with Frankenstein.
I have to assume you know this, but I'm gonna check you guys.
Yeah.
But you also understand the play on words here in Lisa Frankenstein, or is that something a gay will have to explain?
like the Trapper Keeper design. Yeah, I totally understand.
What's a Trapper Keeper?
What?
I'm Canadian. We have different words. Is that
Like a binder?
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah,
folder?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a Frank.
Lisa
Yeah,
Frank and Stein. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry, I had to check. I had to check. It was worth checking. Um,
Oh, you gotta look into Trapper Keepers, Josh. You really missed out.
weird name for it. I don't like that. That's aggressive. What did we call them? Oh, is it the kind that you like put the little things through and then open them up and then they're stuck? The little prongs? Because we had duotangs, and I don't think you guys did.
I have no idea what that
Yeah,
is.
see? Who's the fool? Yeah, duotangs. They were fucking hard. I remember actually the first time I had to use one, I like had to go to the bathroom and I just like kind of had like a frustration cry. I was like, I can't do this. Now look at me. These are good movies. From what I've taken away from this conversation so far, I need to see the third one, basically.
I would say see Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
If you want the continuity. But Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is excellent because they don't compromise the monsters. So the Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, and the Wolfman are all played straight the way they were. Like, I mean, Dracula isn't as ruthless as he is in the original, but like Lugosi's still playing Dracula. He's not playing some caricature. And so I think that that's why that movie for me is so important, just because it manages to be respectful to that material and also introduce this hilarious comedic duo, and you get the best of both.
I didn't know that. I assumed it was just silly. So that's interesting.
And I think that's why Lugosi was hesitant to do it. I think they had to sort of convince him that the monsters would be played straight. He didn't want to be a joke.
We also are touching base on some interpretations and film versions of Frankenstein. Sorry, guys, that we're going late. And I want to start with Gods and Monsters. And Dan, would it be okay? Would you mind leading us through like the basics on this movie?
Yeah, so Gods and Monsters is I mean, I would consider it almost a kind of a biopic of James Whale in a sense. It's not really about his career so much as it is he is the main, well, he's not even the main character. So he is a prominent character in this film, and we're viewing James Whale through the eyes of his like groundskeeper, the guy who mows his lawn. Played by oh God.
Brendan Fraser
Brendan
of the
Fraser?
Mummy fame.
Played by Brendan Fraser. And so
crossover. Sorry.
like the two of them develop sort of a friendship, and it, in typical James Whale fashion, it does sort of blur the line between friendship and sort of romantic involvement. But yeah, so it's Ian McKellen as James Whale, Brendan Fraser as I forget the character's name because
Hottie with the body.
Clayton Boone. And so so Clayton learns who James Whale was. He's not really like a movie guy, but then like starts to fall in love with him and his movies, and it's a really beautiful story. And I don't know how true to life that relationship was, but the movie does get into the actual end of James Whale, which is totally tragic and heartbreaking as well.
Good fucking movie.
I loved it. Yeah.
It was big. It made a splash. It didn't make much money, but it got nominated for 3 Academy Awards, which is cool to see. I don't think anyone won anything, but you got Ian McKellen, Lynn Redgrave, and Bill Condon all going up for it. I wonder if it flopped because it's gay? I don't know. It's a big movie. It was a big risk in 1998 to make this big of a gay movie, but it is like award season movie. Who's to say?
I mean, that's certainly an element, right? I think we have to consider the fact that it is a pretty gay movie, and that might have not played so well in 1998.
It wouldn't now. I could see it flopping now because of that.
For sure. But and for the same reason, maybe my other point was going to be that like who in like are mass audiences clamoring for a James Whale movie? I don't think most people are familiar with who he was and why he's important to the history of not just horror films, but of filmmaking, like in the early 30s Hollywood in general, because he didn't just make horror movies. In fact, I don't even think he thought of himself as a horror filmmaker. He just liked these stories because he made other non-horror movies. But yeah, so despite the fact that he is incredibly important to that history, his name kind of got forgotten. And I don't think people outside of our circles really remember who James Whale was. So, like, yeah, if you tell people, "Oh, I'm going to go see the movie about James Whale," who the fuck's that? So I think that's a factor as well.
It's kind of giving these new movies. I forget his name, the director of Jackie, and he also did Spencer. Did you see Spencer with fucking Twilight girl, Kristen
Miss
Stewart.
Yeah. And he also did it with Jackie, with Natalie Portman playing Jackie Onassis.
Oh, that I saw. Yeah.
So like they're just like weird, kind of like almost surrealist like snaps of life for these women. And I kind of think this is kind of doing a similar kind of experimental thing with like a fictionalized snap of life for him at this time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I think Dan, you raised a good point though, because like not that we don't want this movie, right? But like you're like, and it's not even like who wants a James Whale movie, but it's like what other movie about a director can you name? Like, are there movies no. There's not that many, if any. And then it's like, well, this came before like the Todd Browning movie, and like I'm still waiting on that. Like, where's that movie?
Like what Todd Browning movie?
This should have kickstarted some kind of trend, I think, of biopics because I love movies about the process in the industry, and I think it's so funny and so enlightening when Hollywood is turning the camera on themselves, so to speak. Okay, and like it can be sorted, and it's not the whole story, but it's great stuff. And this was an interesting take on a biopic. I think that people were expecting a straight up monster movie is the problem. Brendan Fraser's in it, and Ellen kind of looks like he could be like a bad guy maybe in a trailer. So it could have been a lot of just crossed wires or miscommunication with the marketing and stuff.
Or like spooked marketing. It's so true.
But even like the best movie about making movies, in my opinion, which came out around that time, was like Ed Wood, and Tim Burton made that.
There we go. Okay, good.
Yeah. Tim Burton, you had Johnny Depp, Bill Murray. That cast and that director, it should have been a success.
Right. I don't think the public's that interested. You're right in these kinds of creatives.
But thank you for naming another director movie, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah. Every time I tell people, like Tim Burton's best movie,
Shadow of the Vampire,
they're like, "What the hell is Ed Wood?" And I'm like, "You haven't seen it."
No.
Ed Wood's so fucking good. People need to rewatch and relive Ed Wood. Fucking Drusilla from Buffy is in it. Julia.
We might have answered our own question tonight, because like these three movies, like this movie, Gods and Monsters, Ed Wood, and Shadow of a Vampire, they all seem to have been around the same time. About like one's about Dracula, one's about Frankenstein, one's about Ed Wood and what he was doing with like Plan 9, whatever. It's like it's all very related. It is all very related. So like, was it just a moment in time? Was it just a stack of scripts like passed around, and was it just timing or something? Was it a coincidence?
It's so interesting. I think it's all like lightning in a bottle, and that I think that means timing, right? I think I agree with you on that. Beautiful movie. I love the 90s. Also, the 90s was closer to this. 90s is a long time ago now. Closer to the golden age of cinema than we are now. Something I learned too before we move on, I thought were interesting was apparently Clive Barker served as an executive producer. Very interesting person, as he is also a queer horror filmmaker of our times.
I don't think I knew that.
I'm pretty sure. And I think they also used some recreations that are worth noting, like reconstructions of the like actual Bride of Frankenstein, like kind of, I think, identically. And I think that was, helpful to Whale's legacy. Cool movie, gay movie. I recommend it. This next one, I want to hear from you about, Mike. Do you think you could talk us through Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 94?
Yeah. This is a pretty crazy movie looking back at it. It is basically Kenneth Branagh, he loved Shakespeare. He made tons of movies about Shakespeare. He's great with Shakespeare, this Shakespeare, that. He Shakespeared Frankenstein this time. And I kind of love it. It's kind of so over the top, almost in a Baz Luhrmann type of way,
Uh-huh.
minus the crazy special effects and the musicals kind of angle. But like the acting is bombastic and operatic and over the top, and it goes really far. I think it's pretty faithful to the novel. You know, the bride shows up at the end, the monster speaks. It's Robert De Niro as the monster. There's a scene early on where he's alive and everyone's getting flu shots, and he like shanks the doctor, and that's why he's murdered in time in like Times Square. Like he's an anti-vaxxer. It's wild
Okay.
stuff. And in the end, it just goes so hard, you know, and I feel like it's so sincere and it wears just everything right on its cuff. And yeah, I think it's definitely worth watching. It's huge blockbuster stuff, great makeup, great sets. It might push it kind of far for like the casual viewer. Yeah, I think horror fans that haven't seen it will love it. I think people who don't like it should definitely give it another watch if it's been a
Mhm.
few years. There's lots of stuff in here. And I didn't think De Niro would work. I never really thought he worked as the monster, but this viewing, I really was into the stuff that he was bringing to the monster. Monster is really good in this one for me. So,
I was fascinated to find out that this is sort of a parallel film to Coppola's own directed Bram Stoker's Dracula. Can you guys talk to me a little bit about that? Because that's cool.
yeah, Coppola, I believe, was a producer on
Mhm.
this, if I'm not mistaken, and he was making the Bram Stoker movie, and that, in my eyes, is just like epic. That's an amazing film.
It's a 5-star movie.
I'm in love with that movie.
Yeah.
Big Coppola, just movie fan in general. I love what he did there. This doesn't quite get
Mhm.
there. Like it's not the same like artistically, like it's got its own look to it, you know,
Mhm.
but as far as its like faithfulness and trying to, you know, adapt a classic respectfully and also be a horror movie. Like there are some very disturbing, scary moments in this movie that definitely like, you know, haunt you for a day or two. So I think that that is not a bad connection to make.
Do you think that they were purposely trying to make both of these movies sort of similar in tone and size and like maybe even extremeness?
It definitely feels that way.
Hmm.
I had never watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein before we were preparing to record this episode. So this was brand new to me. I had been familiar with Bram Stoker's Dracula. I knew the Coppola connection. I knew Kenneth Branagh was the director and the star, and I knew his history as a filmmaker. So when Mike says he Shakespeare's, the shit out of Frankenstein, he really does. Um, and I think that they're definitely striving for some sort of visual symmetry on some level. I don't think Frankenstein goes as far into like camp as Dracula does. It's certainly not sexy the way Dracula is.
Yeah.
And I think, as much as I love the Frankenstein story, like Mary Shelley's novel, for me, this was one of those instances where kind of like Zack Snyder's Watchmen, where being very faithful to the source material was almost a detriment to the film. There was so many cool sequences in this movie, but as it was playing out, I felt like the rhythm was off for me. I felt bored, kind of in the middle, like, okay, the monster's alive now. Where's this movie going? And then like I was waiting for the climax. And so I think just what worked on the page in Mary Shelley's book doesn't necessarily translate to the screen well for me, but the visuals are incredible. I think the performances are over the top, just like Dracula, which are really cool. The effects are great. I think the makeup effects, like Mike said, can get really disturbing. Um, but yeah, I think it's just the strike I have against this particular movie is that it just sticks too close to the source material in a way that doesn't serve the viewer.
Interesting. Um,
I
I
think
want to,
that's fair.
yeah.
I don't, but I will say this. If you haven't read Frankenstein, you're not going to be lost in the way I feel like watching the fourth Harry Potter movie or
Oh,
anything
that's fair.
like that. You
That's a
know,
good
so
point.
like yes, it is there's a lot going on for sure. It may be too faithful, but I also don't feel like you're missing it. I agree with Dan. It slows down a pretty fair amount halfway through, but Yeah, I don't think it's very clear cut.
Do you
a
think
lot
this
of
is kind of like The Mummy 2017, but of the 90s, where like it was too big and too much, and it kind of just tonally didn't connect with audiences for this series?
I kind of suspect that Bram Stoker's Dracula was such a hit because of the romantic angle. The Dracula and Mina
It was so
sort of
good.
romance is so attractive, and like that's going to bring in your romance novel readers, like all those people are going to come want to see this sexy Dracula movie. There's no sex appeal in Frankenstein.
Okay.
So you really have to be into it for the horror or the science fiction or for the period drama.
Well,
If
what
you're-
about Helena Bonham Carter?
Well, that okay. So there's a really strange story issue with that character. Is the and I guess it's not that strange.
No, I'm excited.
But technically, that's his sister. I mean, it
Yeah.
is his like stepsister, and when there's nothing wrong with
Uh,
that, all right. But like, it is treated very much like they are
Insisting.
brother sister, and they
Oh.
fall in love with each other,
Yeah.
and if it wasn't for that, there was an opportunity to make it incredibly sexy and romantic,
Yes.
and to contrast the sort of beauty of the body with the nasty disgustingness of the body as well.
Dead incest.
No. Every time they start making out, they have to
kind of like-
emphasize that they're
Brother.
brother and sister.
I mean, flowers in the attic. I mean, hot, right? This
No blood between them, so technically.
not yet. Oh God.
Ugh.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Josh.
this is incredible. This movie looks like camp to some degree. You said no. I don't know.
Yeah, but just like big, it's like a huge
that's
camp.
Toronto.
It's a
Like-
very big camp.
Also, you don't like Watchmen, the movie? Am I the only one?
I think that
I
the
get it.
movie is too faithful. I think it's I mean,
I was gonna say the book
understand-
is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I understand what Snyder was going for, but I think
At least he's
the original
changed the ending.
which I don't like either. But
You wanted the ending from the crazy graphic novel?
yes,
Actually,
why not? It's good. Go big or go home is what I'm saying. But no, I just think structuring your film like a graphic novel, it's gonna fuck with the rhythm. Like you're up and you're down, you're up and you're down. It doesn't kind of find its groove. And I think that that this Frankenstein adaptation, it's admirable that they try to stay faithful, but like ultimately, I'm not engaged 100% of the way through.
Interesting. Do we have final thoughts on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
Watch it.
Check it out. I think at times the Frankenstein creature looks like a drawing by Frank Miller of the Dark Knight Batman without the pointy ears. Like he is
That's cool.
jumping with the cape
Yeah.
and the thing, and then he's massive. And then now I just want De Niro as the Dark Knight
I
Batman.
said it wasn't sexy. That's sex.
Oh, my bad.
All right. And then I think this is our final movie of the day, is something that takes us a little bit further away from the source material, which is the movie May from 2002. This is an American indie horror movie directed by Lucky McKee, who has gone on to really become an indie horror icon, like with other movies like The Woman, which is really controversial, etc. It stars Angela Bettis, kind of like a sidekick character in bigger movies, getting her title role this time around next to Jeremy Sisto. We've got Anna Faris in a bizarre role, James Duval. The story centers around this girl named May. She's lonely. She's not neurotypical to my understanding. And she had a really bad childhood and a mom that wasn't so great. And as she does her best to connect with other human beings around her, like at her weird job as I think a vet tech assistant or something, she becomes increasingly, more unhinged, and the behavior starts to get worse. And these themes of the need for human connection start to get a little bit more violent. This movie didn't do so good at the box office, but it has become a cult classic since its release. I love this movie so much. I can understand maybe if others didn't. I have no idea how these two feel about this movie. So before they're going to get into it, I'll just say one of my all-time favorites. The ending is one of my favorite horror movie endings. This movie's I don't know. I think it's like lightning in a bottle again. It's like it's really special, and I don't think it has any right to be the amount of special that it is, in my opinion. I love Angela Bettis so much. She had another great role in Girl Interrupted. And she was also Carrie in 2002. She's an icon.
Interesting.
Yes, there was a direct-to-TV Carrie written by Brian Fuller. Um, and yeah, uh, basically the gist of this movie is May is making herself a friend, and she is sort of having a sexual awakening, and so she decides, and all these people around her, what parts of them she likes the most, because for her it's not for sex, it's going to be for making this friend of hers that'll keep her company because she's so goddamn lonely.
Well, it starts about sex, doesn't it? I got the sense
There's
that
a lot
she
of sex.
was very much just like, oh, is this gonna happen? Is it gonna happen now? Okay,
Yeah,
this
you're
person's interested. Is it gonna happen with this person? And it doesn't. And suddenly she's like, I don't need all that. I just
And she like kind of turns.
I want their arm. I want their.
She gets real with herself, right? She's like,
Yeah,
okay, communication is key. Yeah. I don't know. I gave the basic rundown. Why don't you guys talk to us how you felt about it?
So after that glowing
I know. I
review, let me take a massive shit on it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was so
Um,
scared.
no. I finished it minutes before we started recording, and so I had never seen it before. I watched it on your recommendation, Josh, and I can absolutely see why this failed at the box office. It is a weird, strange, bizarre little movie,
I didn't go to
but
theater.
I'll be damned if I wasn't charmed by it. I found myself really enjoying it for all of its quirks. I was waiting to see where this was going. I think I knew we were watching it in the context of like, okay, we're talking Frankenstein, and I'm like, okay, well, when's she gonna put a body together? When's she gonna put a body together?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it does sort of take its time getting to that point, but I really enjoyed just all the performances and the lead. What was her name again?
Angela Bettis. Yeah.
She's really fun in this. I really liked the not RoboCop actor. What's his name? The dude she's like crushing on the whole movie. I'm
Jeremy
like,
Sisto.
Jeremy Sisto?
yeah, the whole movie. I'm just like, he's just got this like young what's his
Peter
name?
Weller?
Yeah, he struck me as like a young Peter Weller.
Whoa.
Like Buckaroo Banzai Peter Weller. Maybe it's the
Oh,
voice.
okay.
He looked like a Buckaroo Banzai. This was like his 6 Feet Under era too, where he was like
Yeah, that's
very
where I
hot
knew
and
him.
very big.
Yeah, so I had never seen this guy before in my life, but I looked at
Oh, really?
he's on 60.
Oh. Dude, so creepy and 6 feet under.
So scary.
Ooh.
Also kind of relatable. I don't know. Okay, interesting.
Uh-huh.
Thrilled that you felt that way. Do we give away the ending or no? Do we talk
We
about
can
that?
if you like.
Kind
Mike,
of.
what did you think, Mike?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised. Like, this is a endearing little film in my mind. Like, I love movies from this era. You can tell they're very indie, they're scrappy, they're thrown together. There's probably lots of friends involved. Like, I love James Duval. Like, I've known from the Greg Araki films and stuff. Like, it's great that he popped up. Like Jeremy Sisto, I know from 6 Feet Under. Anna Faris. We came to all know Anna Faris one day. But yeah, it just had like that indie vibe, and like the music was like indie rock, and it's about this outsider that's very interesting and introverted, and like I like the whole doll motif, especially coming off of like Long Legs. And
Wait, will you speak to that a little bit? Will you like just speak to the doll motif in this movie?
Yeah, well, like her mom, who like does tons of damage to her as a little girl, it sort of says like, if you don't have any friends, you just make a friend. When I was a little girl, I made this doll, and this doll is my best friend, but you can't play with it or take it out of the box. You got to leave it in its like Annabelle case, and it's basically like haunted with the spirit of her mother. I'm like, she put her soul into this thing, and it's just haunting her daughter the entire movie. And so Annabelle, like, it does become her. I called her Annabelle. I'm sorry, May. It becomes her best friend, and she talks to it, and throughout the movie kind of like explain, well, we don't really realize what's happening so much till the end, but it's like she is going to compile the perfect person for her. She seems to be bisexual, so this creation she makes is both male and female body parts, and so I like that connection as well. And yeah, it's just a very, you could tell it's like kind of hip for its time, I felt. And I just wish it had more money. I actually kind of don't
Yeah.
wish it had more money, you know? Actually, screw that.
Like another
Love it for its-
$50,000 for post. That's it.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, maybe one more sequence as the child may. Maybe like, you do a couple age jumps instead of the one massive age jump, but I
Come
was
around a note,
pleasant-
basically. Yeah.
yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
I
Yeah.
love. I very relieved. I don't know why all of a sudden I was like worried about maybe you guys not liking it, which would have been interesting too, because I would have been so rude. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Okay, so the ending is one of my favorite endings ever. Basically, it gets push comes to shove. May, for some reason, has used her own eyeball. Like it's not looking good for May at the end of this movie, and all is lost basically. And she crawls up in bed next to this thing that she's made. It's just like this meat monster, and she's just like crying and next to this thing, and all of a sudden it just reaches over and it holds her. Oh my god. And that's the end of the movie. When I was like, what, 10 and I watched this, I was like, okay, so
Whoa, you watched this when you were 10?
when did this come out? No, this came out 2002.
2002.
So 12, 13,
Still, okay.
14.
Wow, right at that age.
Perfect timing.
Okay.
Can you imagine being like 14 in like 2004 and watching this and being like, what's
Yeah.
that gonna make?
Awesome.
Yeah, I fucking love this movie. Did you know that there's actually a kind of a spin-off sequel called Roman? And this is directed by Angela Bettis and stars Lucky McGee. And it's
Interesting.
from 2006. And it's a lot less well known and reviewed. But it's interesting that it exists. So Lucky McGee's crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen his other movie. He had one of the biggest Sundance, I think it was, like controversies with The Woman. Have you heard of this movie? About Angela Bettis is in it too, as like a puritanical mom and a puritanical family that finds this feral woman, and they chain her up in the basement and they try to make her Jesus. Or like no, they try to make her they try to make her like, a good Christian.
Oh,
and
okay.
it turns out that they are more monstrous, of course, than she is, but she's also pretty bad and will kill you. It's a good movie. There's so many walkouts at this festival premiere. This was like an infamous movie.
I gotta say, I am more inclined to see a movie with walkouts than a 7 to 20-minute standing ovation. So
That's
I'll
true.
just say,
We have one more section.
Damn you, Josh.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They haven't left yet. That's so good.
so good.
The future of Frankenstein. It's very much in motion. It's very much real. And it's very much at the hands of Mr. Guillermo del Toro, who has been sort of flirting with the classic Universal monsters for his whole career. He made The Shape of Water, which was once his Creature from the Black Lagoon remake to some degree. We have a whole episode about that. He's like kind of shook hands with a lot of these movies, and now he's finally making Frankenstein, which is so fascinating because he's like well documented, like super fan of Frankenstein, and like in his house has like this gigantic replica of Frankenstein's head just like hanging there. It's so cool. I love Guillermo del Toro. Is maybe my favorite director. I mean, Nightmare Alley was so good, and I don't know why people don't understand that. Yeah, he's making Frankenstein. I think it's already wrapped filming. The cast is going to include Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein. We've got Jacob Elordi as the monster. Mia Goth, undisclosed role. Christoph Waltz. We got Lars Mikkelsen. I think Waltz is supposed to be Dr.
If he's not Pretorius,
I think he is. I don't know. And I believe it's going to incorporate, storylines from both Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein into this. So she's going to be Bride of Frankenstein, I guess. And it's supposed to be like a surprise.
I would be really surprised if she's not. But also, it's Guillermo del Toro. Who knows what he has up his sleeve?
Yeah. Genius, master of art. Love him.
She could be Elizabeth, but why would you bury that lead? I don't know. I think
honestly.
By not naming her the bride, I feel like that's too obvious. So maybe
I agree with you. I do.
Same character.
What?
Maybe
Elizabeth becomes
the bride.
Oh God, yeah, probably.
I'm sorry to ruin it.
Yeah, you ruined it.
Spoilers for the book.
No,
That's
they know that she's like
years old.
you can't cast her without her being cuckoo.
Oh yeah,
So
spoilers for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as well. Because you haven't seen that movie yet, Josh.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're doing a whole lot of good with Helena Bonham Carter in it, from what I'm hearing.
It's rough, but I'm very excited for Guillermo del Toro to be making this. Like, I do
I am
not.
too.
I mean, like, the thing about his movies is like he infuses them with style, and
Yeah.
his style rules. Like, whether it's like Pacific Rim and his
Yeah.
love of like sci-fi monster movies, like kaiju stuff, or even what was the one with the mansion and it was
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak. Like, so it was just all atmosphere.
And
like
all atmosphere, so haunting.
I love him so much.
And like Frankenstein as a narrative is so ingrained in popular culture. It's like we don't need to see how Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man, right? He can just make a Frankenstein movie that is
And
like
start
balls
with
to the wall style and like do the broad strokes. We don't need the minutia.
He goes slow though. He's a minutia babushka.
Sure, but like I feel like he has so much more freedom to really lean into the style of Frankenstein.
And he will. And it's gonna work.
Because we don't need to be told what this story is. We know what this story is.
It couldn't be more perfect. I do hate Jacob Elordi, but I think that's just like a personal thing. So I'm gonna try to let go of that. This is gonna rule. I hope this is an Oscar movie. Like I hope this takes down the world.
Jacob Elordi, is he the guy from
Euphoria?
Euphoria, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's cast because he's like 9 feet tall. That's why he's the monster.
Yeah. And he's well, they had someone else that dropped out before him that was him, and I forget who it was. It was like Chalamet. I don't know. It was one of them. Who was it? Who dropped out? Fuck. I didn't look into it. I'm excited about this. What do you guys think of Nightmare Alley? Am I the only one that cares?
I actually just started it. I just watched the episode starring currently my favorite actor, Dan Stevens. The one with like the makeup cream.
Are you thinking of Cabinet of Curiosities?
That is what he is.
Sorry.
I was like, episode.
I was on the Guillermo head.
I love it. My favorite thing that I learned today is when you learned live that you got more Instagram followers and that you sold shirts. Because you're not on it. You're just not there.
No, I'm in the shop 24/7.
I love that. I can't imagine that world. I like it.
No, I haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet. Mostly because I didn't get a chance to see it in the theater, and I was sort of waiting for it to come to streaming, and now I think it is. So I think this October I'll give it a spin.
I highly recommend it. I think it's really underrated. It's like it's one of my favorite movies of all time now.
I don't know if this is true, but do you guys watch What They Do in the Shadows, the TV show?
Not anymore.
Okay, there's a character on there named Guillermo, and he looked suspiciously like Guillermo del Toro, and I wondered if that was like an homage or an homage to him that we named.
Sure, it is, right?
It has to be.
It has to be, and he's now like a super famous gay. That's
right. Yeah.
Harvey Guyen or something. I love him. He was the voice of the yellow dog in that new adaptation of Garfield.
Oh no, Odie?
Yeah, it's Odie.
Guillermo, why are you Odie? This doesn't make sense.
Chris Pratt.
All right.
I think that's it, guys.
We want to touch on Maggie Gyllenhaal's Frankenstein movie.
Oh, I mean, I'm willing. As long as you guys are both willing to keep hanging out, yes.
We might have to freestyle it. We might have to freestyle it though.
I mean, I just know that it's got.
How did you find something not in this outline? How is that even possible?
Professional, Josh.
That's true.
Is it Fassbender that's playing the monster?
It's Christian Bale as the monster.
Christian Bale. Sorry. Yeah, where's he been for a while?
I should say allegedly, actually.
Was that to get into the role of the crackhead brother of Mark Wahlberg, the boxer?
Probably. Maybe he was angry because it was from the Machinist era.
Oh, it could be.
So this thing, it's co-written. No, actually, okay. So written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. I saw Mary Shelley's name as a writer, but that's obviously for the novel. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal in an undisclosed role, Christian Bale as Frankenstein's monster, Jessie Buckley as the bride. Also cast Peter Sarsgaard, Penelope Cruz, Annette Bening.
Oh, it's happening? Like, this is real?
It's called The Bride, and there were some like pre-production photos posted where Christian Bale looks an awfully lot like Jared Leto's Joker,
or the new Crow.
or the new Crow.
No,
Yeah.
that's not. You're lying.
I'm not kidding.
I hope she makes her brother Igor. That would be
that'd be
great. If
amazing.
she's like, you want to be in my movie? You got to be the Hunchback.
We're gonna make beautiful Jake Gyllenhaal this ugly like Hunchback character.
It is funny. I feel like he'd like that.
He probably
He
would.
seems
Honestly.
psycho, but like in a good way.
Nightcrawler, you got to be to go there.
Oh, that's a good one. I love Nightcrawler. I always joke with my editor-in-chief that we are Nightcrawler. I'm him, and she's what's her face? Who's the lady? You know her name.
Oh,
Who's
that's
the lady?
Stone.
Julianne Moore?
Oh, Renee Russo.
Renee Russo.
Oh yeah, Lethal Weapon 3.
Oh yeah.
That's my go-to.
Mine is now.
Or Get Shorty, I guess.
Oh, Get Shorty, and the other one, the sequel to Get Shorty. Get
Oh yeah.
Taller. There was a
Can't
sequel.
remember.
Like, Give Me Money. Uma Thurman was in it. Oh, there's a file.
Oh yeah, I posted in the chat the photo of Christian Bale as the monster. This was an official release.
Crazy. I kind of like it. That's camp.
It works better for this than it did for the Joker. I will say that.
Like, I want to see that on like the West End, you know?
Right.
He's like shirtless a little bit. Not shirtless, but he's like, there's supposed to be sexy coded for sure.
Oh, for sure. That here we go with that. I mean, if you ever wanted to see the monster bump and smash, then we might
This
get
is the one. This is, oh, he's for sure gonna bump and smash. He's got a tattoo. His jacket's tattooed. Also, so
wild.
Weird. I thought she just made like sad political movies. Maybe that's what this will be too.
No. I mean, I've only seen a handful of the images they've released, but it really looks like the new Joker movie in terms of just the general vibe of it.
Oh, the new Joker movie.
Fully
Sorry.
do, yeah.
Well, that could be good. Maybe
Could be fun.
Oh,
I mean, I'm a big proponent of big swings, so
I
whether
think
it's
this is a big swing.
whether it's a train wreck or not, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's what this is.
She's gonna do something bold with it.
Well, I'm the only one here that listened to Harlequin, the album that just came out, and oh boy, don't listen to that.
Take your word for it.
It's bad. Anyway, wait, so we did it. Did we do it?
We did it.
That's impressive. I feel like we just did something impressive.
That was fun.
It was fun. Thank you guys very much. I'm excited to see how long this one is.
That's what she said.
Where can people find you online, Dan and Mike?
So I am on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, pretty much everywhere at Dan Colón. But you can find all things The Monsters That Made Us at cageclub.me/monsters. All of our socials are on that site as well.
Hell yeah.
And I can be found pretty much everywhere at _Mikester, MIKESTIR. Twitter, I'm angry. Instagram, I'm nice. Plain, but climates are different there. And every other show I'm on, you can find at cageclub.me.
Thank you so much for listening to Development Hell. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do us a major favor of leaving us 5 stars and writing a positive review. It really makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode of Development Hell.
Thank you for listening to the Dread Podcast Network.